All right, hello there. So still working on Rogo, my test server for running interactive coding challenges. My goal for today is to get through the client side setup here. So being able to run login, initialize your repository, actually probably install it locally. So like install it as a global script, set up if you need to change the thing, and then run the test. And then that should report the status to the server. So I guess maybe next would be the first thing. So the idea being that you can be in one of two modes as you're working, right? One is I'm going to implement a new feature, so you want to fetch the next test, which is presumably going to fail, and then so now you have a failing test to work towards, or you're in like maintenance mode, in which case you just want to run the test that you already have, and so all that is, that's kind of the client side workflow. That's what you do as a user, and then of course you can always check for status, and as you go along, it should show the progress in your web browser. So there needs to be a WebSocket. And then I think we're even going to have it set up so that you can watch the files for changes, and then that kicks off a build script or whatever automatically. And then check for updates about whether the version of the client needs to be updated, like Rogo itself needs to be updated. This I thought was working. Login, it was working on my local machine. It fails to work on, I have rogo.tangentcode.com now. If you go there, you can actually see my test database. It doesn't even say what the name of the challenge is, but this is LearnTris. So LearnTris, and they're testing this challenge. It's actually wrong. Oh, maybe because I haven't imported the challenge, right? But you ought to be able to put that in, import that into the database, and then this would say there are like 50 or 100 or however many tests there are, and you ought to be able to browse them, and then you ought to be able to say like my playthroughs and see like what challenges am I working through. Anyway, if you go up here to off login, which would be what you get if you run the login command, what should happen is it should tell you it's logged in, and then this request for the JSON web token should complete, but it doesn't. And so that's the mystery for today. I've been debugging it for a little while, and if you run, you know what this command is, ps tree, that gives you a tree of your processes on the whole server. You can see inside of tmux here, I'm running Flask, Python, and that runs Python 3.10. And then you can see there are 5 copies of Python 3.10 running. And so this implementation of Flask is multi-threaded. That's not the case on my development, on the Windows box where I was developing. So even just running the Flask dev server is multi-threaded, which normally would be fine, except I have this crazy thing here where I say await. So basically, the way the login system works, you can see it fetches a pre-token. So like it fetches a token that's going to tell it, this is the token I can use to get back the real token. And then it opens the browser and it sends that token to the browser. And so that's why this window popped up here. And if you go back, I guess it doesn't let me go back. But what it said before, it would have said, get off login, with some long pre-code, that, and that's probably going to say, oh, should have said that doesn't work, and it hasn't been used, or it's been used again, or something like that. But in any case, so the pre-token, oh, I see, no, because it hasn't been removed. There's a bug there. Anyways, so there are basically two requests sent out at the same time. So as soon as that web browser gets launched, we send a request asking for the token that we're going to get back when the browser finishes the login process. Somewhere on this page in the JavaScript, it sends back some information. So the JavaScript. Why it's not here? Maybe it's on the previous page, and then there's a redirect. But yeah, it goes to this login page, and the login page basically says, has this little hidden form here. If it's one of these, like, token fetching things, and it says, okay, so give me the pre-token, and then once I get the access token from, in my case, Firebase, wherever your OpenAuth provider is, OpenID provider is, OAuth 2 provider, excuse me, then the token comes back with, so the pre-token and the actual token come back, and then we, in theory, you would check that and test that they are same. And the code right here, yeah, right here. So it says, so get the pre-token, get the access token, decode the access token, and then also validate that so that have like a prove that it's the real, validate it against the person who sent it. Give it to them and say, hey, does this match your private key or whatever, or was this signed by your private key? And then or I guess we can download the public key and check that. And then so then we create a user, or we create a new token that has the user from our OAuth provider. So Firebase, in my case, has a list of users, and so that has a UID, and then get their email or whatever, and then we make that token and send it back. But this is the request in the browser, whereas we need to send it back in the request to the command line client. It's over here, the fetching JWT. And so the way I have that working right now is I have a global dictionary called queues, or a dictionary in this module, global to the app module. And I get the data out of there, and it's a queue, and I put the token into that, and then that triggers. It should trigger the queue itself is async IO queue, right? So I've got async IO, and then somewhere in here I say async IO.queue, and so when I do the first request, it gets the pre-token. I also create that queue, and then the thought was, well, okay, then when we ask for the JSON token, the JWT, the JSON web token, we can just wait for that queue to come, to have something in it, and then when it's done, then we're good. Actually, we could say delete queues pre, delete that token, or delete the queue, which is the bug that allowed me to reuse the pre-token. Okay, so anyway, so login. The login should test for the auth login. And to do test that pre-token was not reused. Does that make sense? I don't think that makes sense here. Right, it would fail at the end. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so the problem is that this is a global variable, or rather, no. The problem is that this variable right here contains all those queues, and then the process is forked. So when Flask is forking the process to make a new thread or a new fork, right? The runner for Flask is causing this to be copied over, and so some other queue in another process is being updated. So the queue exists because the process forked and there's a copy of it, but that copy is being updated, and so the original process that had that's waiting for the result to come back never gets notified. That's what I'm guessing is happening anyway. That's the only thing that makes sense for me. That's why it would work on Windows, which is running in a single-threaded environment versus Flask, which is running in same as I'm running Flask in both places, but on Ubuntu it's running multiple threads and causing this problem. And then I was looking to figure out how to turn this off. I cannot turn it off. So without going in and hacking Flask, I don't think there is a way to turn this off. Apparently it requires threads to run the way it works. It wasn't built with async from the ground up. But there is a dialect or a rewrite of Flask called Quart. That is, anyway. So the end result of that is that the token never gets sent back, and so after a while, it just times out. So it takes some time. So you log in, success, hello Firebase. It should have immediately sent us back. So this should have been done now. And after a few seconds, it's going to time out and complain. All right, so that's the problem. I think the solution is as easy as switching this over to Quart. So every time I see the word Flask, how about we just say, it won't let me refactor that, but let's just say Flask equals this. And then now every time I see this, even though it's invalid, I'm going to rename this to Quart. And then this is going to be Quart. That's what I'm hoping is going to work. And so then we're going to say import Quart. So then, in our requirements.txt, first of all, I think we can just right click on this and it'll add it for us. Add imported package. Okay. Looks like I already had it installed. And I do not need Tornado. I was playing with Tornado earlier as another possible workaround. Yeah, so I had all this down here. I'm not going to use this. Might keep this as a scratch. New scratch file. Python. I could have said from. We'll just leave that there. And then, I have all kinds of little scratches on it. So let's leave this here and keep it as app run. And I tried putting this threaded in here to turn it off. Basically, you just cannot turn off the threading on. But Quart should work, and Quart should not be threaded at all. And I think that's enough to make this work. This was a test I did. I was just testing whether you could sleep for 5 seconds and get the data. That worked fine, but it didn't have any shared data. So that told me that the problem was the shared data and not just async itself. So yeah, so async was something that was added on to Flask much later, and it didn't do what I needed in this particular case. All right, so now I need to upload this. I need to upload the requirements and the app, and I'm going to deploy them. Can't see this, but it says upload them to Tangent Code. Yes, and then I want to set up auto upload. Deployment, yeah, deployment, automatic upload. So that should keep everything in sync as I save it. Now, we're going to close this, and we're going to say pip. Also, so it was also not letting me close this, and I think that was because they had this lock acquire thing was just taking forever to close. If it would say it would detect it's in development mode, so it would detect if the file changed, but it wouldn't restart the server because of some locking issue. But now I see that whenever you hit Control-C, it just always on this lock acquire. So something else was going wrong there. I think it was because that request was still open, because it never finished it. Anyway, so pip remove Flask, right? Uninstall. Yeah. And then I'm even going to say, I'm going to switch. I'll change one thing at a time. I was going to say I could upgrade to a different version of Python. Python 12 is the latest. Pip install /r requirements.txt. That should install I need to remove Flask. But also pip. Is that the latest version of pip? I mean of Quart. Pip install Quart. Whatever version it has, I'm gonna. Oh, it installs Flask anyway. I guess that makes sense because it's the rewrite of. Where did I say Quart 0.19.4. Requirement upgrade. That's the local version. And okay, so now Quart run. I have the docs open. Oh, well, just try it. Quart run. All right, so now let's see if that runs. Oh, routine rendered template. Okay, so, oh, right. So now, let's not edit this here. Let's edit it here. So details. Okay. It's because I'm not running as a super user. I shouldn't have even started that. Control click to start as a super user. And then we can say pip install or pip upgrade Quart. I would had previously. Actually, it's install upgrade Quart. Yeah, and then so now I've got 19. And so this should say, it should eventually realize that it's covering binary modules and it's not so good. Okay. All right, so now, right now I just need to run of a distraction. I need to run this. Oh, but it failed. Oh, right, okay, right. So it failed, and then I looked at why it failed, and the answer was that it was whenever I see render template, I need to replace it with something else. So whenever I see this, let's do Control Shift R, I believe replaces. Nope, that's replacing files. Control R. So whenever we see that, we're going to replace it with await. Actually, this answers one of my questions about Quart, which was whether you needed to change each one of these to async. And it looked like in the docs you had to. You had to put the word async there every time. But in fact, you only have to do that if you're using await, because it or at least it seemed to support not having it. It didn't complain that the word that it didn't have like it tried to run it without the routine or whatever. Like it said, we returned this, and it complained that it was never awaited. So that tells me that the problem was like this ought to work fine. Although this is only called for debugging things manually. This is something I made earlier. Previously, we were just sending the symbol PRE as a free token, and so now it makes a random free token out of a bunch of 32 random ASCII letters. So this should not have to require a async. It's not async. And this was already async. Flask supports async, but quite the way I wanted. And I think that's good. So now I expect this to also run in one process. Let's try it. I did tell it to auto update, so let's see if it debug, see if it so the reloader, see if that works, and then we'll change something. Exclamation point there. Yeah, so now it just reloaded it. And we save it again, should reload it one more time. Okay. All right, now the test is we switched over to port. We switched all the things that need to be async over to async, and then we still got something wrong. Internal server error. So we're still missing something. All right, so we have to await the request, I guess, because it says, get the form. So request, await, form, and get pre-token. So we have to await the form and then get the pre-token. Sounded like which we don't know which request. Do I know? Can I see what? I don't think it's telling me which one it is, right? Oh, but it's it was in this request. So in the request for get JWT. All right, so in JWT is the problem. So in JWT, and it looks like it is JSON. I'm surprised you don't have to await that. Oh, I see. Sorry. This is what I was looking for. Post auth success is where I'm at. So that fire? Warning. This was a warning. So this is a bug, but an object has no yet. Okay, so get I'm gonna look at the docs here. Looks like this is not a is JSON. pull this up on the screen so you can see what I'm looking at. Doesn't give you a lot of get JSON, async get JSON. But is JSON? Okay, so I'm guessing that is not, this probably does not require this. So rec if is JSON, so else b equals this needs to be in paren await else await rec form. I lost the word pre is this. Okay, so that was that top part, and then we have another error here. Why does it say it was never awaited? Where did I see that? Right here. So somewhere I'm rendering something. All right, well, that's the only place I use JSON at all, but there's no render template here, so weird. Form. And that makes this async. Then we can say get access to. From is the proper pronunciation, just like this is. All right, that just restarted, I would think. I don't know how much I trust that restarting, but let's try this. All right, everything worked. All right, so we got the token. All right, so let's see where we're at now. Requirements.text, git add, gd what's different here. Yeah, I don't need to check. I don't like having all this IDE stuff in here. Anyway, so gd app.py. This is all the Flask stuff. Oh. Right, all the. Okay, so git add, and then gd client.py. I had to change this to tell it that the remote server is the new thing, rogo.tangentcode.com. You can actually go play with that right now. There's not really much to see there, but git add that. Also, I spelled the word client. Git add client.py, and then driver.py. What's different here? Oh, I just put a little. I don't need that. Git checkout. So just remove that. All right, and git commit -m. And what did I do here? We migrate Flask to Quart for live site. All right. So what have we done here? Close all that down. And now keep this up just in case I need it. Further Flask related questions. Don't need this window. Oh, actually, I just kind of wanted the PS tree. Yeah, so you can see Quart is only running one. That does appear to be a child process, but it's only one of them, and so we didn't have hundreds of these child processes. All right, so or 3 of these. You know, all right. I guess I'm committing all this stuff. Git commit. I just reset it. All right, next. What's up next? We go back here to main. All right, we have a real login. All right, so that all works. We get the key back, but we don't do anything with it. All right, so now. Oh, okay. Well, so now I want to run Rogo init, but that means I need to have a new repository because I don't want to initialize my repository. I want to create a new directory, and that means this needs to be installed system-wide, which means we need to figure this out first. So we've got to figure out how to set up a setup.py or Rogo. Click on setup.py or script. That's the, I think. Installing scripts. I think I can generate, I think PyCharm will generate a setup.py form somewhere. Create setup.py. But I created, this is a separate project for the website itself. So I don't, you go to tangentcode.com, I have a stub of a website, and the idea was that as you're, I just made a separate PyCharm project so that you could, so that I could include the remote deploy information that was specific to me. All right, so I didn't know if it would save in the IDE folder, IDEA. So that means that if I create a setup script, it's going to try and set it up for this main project here, and so I need to make a new window for it to do this. So open something that's already open. I'll have to open the Rogo repository in a new window. And it's not installed in the virtual environment. All right, so that's easy. Now if I say tools create setup.py, package name Rogo, 0.1. What's my name? Michael K. Wallace. What did I call it over here? A tool for writing interactive courses based on a tool for test-driven programming courses. It's not just for writing it, it's for running it too. And how about we put, for now, we just call this GitHub, rather than having to go make a web page for it. Let's just say github.com, and I believe it's still at Tangent Storm, so we say Rogo, and that will redirect to the right place. Check that it works. Test-driven teaching. Okay, well, that created a setup file, but that doesn't seem like it's enough to install it, is it? Too much tabs. I wanted to keep a copy of this design decisions in Flask for my own reference. Just template for my own document. Hang on a second. People have been watching this, so there must be. Okay, yeah. This I had this tab open and it said this was upcoming, so rather than live. Okay. Scared me for a minute. Thought something was wrong, but it's all good. OBS has done the work of adding this little thing here, so it looks like everything. This was relatively recent, and it tells you the information about stream connection status. So I've been relying on that rather than having that tab open. Okay. All right, so setup tools. Where's my other tab for setup tools? Right here. So packages. Hmm. This actually seems like the perfect chance to use setup.py information in setup.py to add the global Rogo command. So if I give that prompt, what else? Entry points? No. So it only does Python scripts? Okay. It ought to it ought to configure it to know which yeah, and contains the word Python. Refer to the current interpreter. So for local development, I can say just Python. And then from Rogo import driver and driver.main, right? Seems like this ought to be Rogo, right? Extension modules are things written in C. Seems like this is what we should be using. Avoid to set up high configuration beyond the minimal stub when custom scripting during the build is not necessary. Examples are kept in this document to help people to maintain. Okay, so this is like setup.py is out of date apparently. Install require. Oh, I see. Install itself requires something. No, the install does not. Scripts. Dependencies, right? So project. The description moves to this version even. Command tool called build. That will automatically download setup tools. Any other build time. Just need to follow them and specify. You know, it's also build using pip. Okay. Wait. Okay. Every Python package must provide a PyProject TOML and specify the backend build system it wants to use. The distribution can then be generated with whatever tool that provides a build as dislike. Backend build system it wants to use. Setup tools build.meta. Okay. Sure. I'll do that just for you. New file pyproject.toml. Okay. Other window. I have the same project open. Okay. This can be done in the same project file or in a separated one. So I think it sounds like setup and setup config are the old ways of doing things, and unless we need this, we just put this here. What if I need script? On installation that run code within your package if you specify them as entry points. Example of how this feature can be used in pip allows you to run commands like pip install instead of having to type python and pip install. On command can try to accomplish this. I see. So project scripts is now We want this to be Rogo. And then, so then we say Rogo dot package would be, so I think I'm gonna have to move this all into a like a package. So I have to revamp the code here. Rogo dot driver and then main. Okay. Dependencies. What about requirements? Seems like I need to take all the stuff from setup.py and put them over here. Version equals 1.0. A roguelike game engine. No, that's not what it is. A tool for test-driven. It's called teaching. Teaching. I don't know if this is allowed or not. Like, we don't know what files are allowed. But I guess it'll tell me in a minute, won't it? IT, author email. And then this already is the scripts here, so that. Okay. Not if that works or not, if that's required or not. I'm guessing I probably then have to put like Rogo in its own directory, which is fine. Although it will conflict with this name right here. All right, let's try this build thing. All right, so what do we do when we build it? This is all new to me. I didn't even know this build thing existed. All build using. Okay. Python-m build. All right, let's try it. Python-m. I think we don't need git rm setup.py. gd rogo. I'm going to move this. Wait, where would it go? Oh, it's going to generate that entire script for me, so I can just delete this file. I'm gonna keep it. aside just for a second here. Git add git diff rogo-sha. Like in the setup file, in the setup tools, you have to do it this way. But if you so I'm going to commit this, and then I will just keep modifying the commit until it works. But that way, if build does something to the current directory, then I won't worry about it too much. How about create by all right, so Python -m build, and what does it do? Source distribution is built from source dir. A binary distribution wheel is built from the source disk. This is recommended as it will ensure that SDisk can be used to build wheels. Okay. Okay. This is it. This is all I have to do is run this script and see what happens. Okay, so it's mad at me. Project license must be valid exactly by one definition. 2 matches found. Relative path to the UTF-8 file. Okay. So license. Do I have a license here? I don't have a license. But we can just grab one from MIT license. Yeah. No. License. MIT license. License.mit. Okay. I'll call it license. Copyright 2024. Tangent code. I don't know what the name of my company is going to be, but that's where you can find it. Or I could just put my own name. For now. There is no legal entity named Tangent Code yet. All right, so then this needs to be licensed. Right, and we try this again. Oh, project.license must be valid exactly by one dev. Okay, that was the first thing that died or that failed, and so try again. Oh, it needs to be this. It needs to say file this. So Author email packages must not contain. All right, what is the format of this thing? It's not helpful. Where is the, I guess the user guide is over here. Okay. No. It doesn't want the URL, the author, or the author email. No problem. Author email, packages URL. And no packages. Okay. Okay. What else? What else it needs? Boring stuff. All right, so it doesn't want me to have a tag. I have two windows open? Why doesn't it? Okay. Okay. So I guess the version history is going to be messed up. I shouldn't have done it that way. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to make a directory called Rogo. Git move. Startup high. All of those. What's runner? Runner is the thing. Git move startup high into Rogo. And then we say touch Rogo init.py. Which is just an empty file now. Not sure what to do with this yet. Test plan, all that stuff. So move site static templates and test plan. Actually, rather git move all of them into Rogo. Site static templates. Oh, that's not tracked yet. I guess we got to figure out how to serve all this data with the package. I think you ought to be able to run your own local server if you want to, for local development or whatever. Maybe that should be a separate package. Include package data equals true. So it includes that by default. Okay, so I guess I should test this. Not sure how to test it. cd rogo. No module named runner. Okay, so we have to change from Rogo import runner org test. That's inside of runner. That's inside of org test. Rogo.model. We don't need this print function thing here. That was ages ago. Where's model? Oh, right there. Database. I think we can even say this. We can just say dot model. Yes. So anyway, so that way we don't have to explicitly say Rogo. Let's fix that. .py. Can we say import.org test? I guess say from dot import org test model dot database. Database import org and then database is easy. Works. So let's just go through all of them now. that doesn't have. I'll import test punch. All right, so this should still work. And just say, let's just run it. Rogo shell. Wait. Okay. All right, so that's everything that is important. I'm not sure how I wound up deleting that, but how that got checked in. Okay, so git commit all this. They're all just renamed git commit -m. I hope that didn't just erase everything. Huh. It's not just rename, it's also rename and changes. So I'm surprised it still says just renamed. Anyway, we'll commit this. I don't know why that keeps coming back. Okay, so move everything into Rogo package for build. And now git, so now we'll try that build thing again. So python-m build, that's it. Didn't wait, watch what happens. Rogo and site. Okay, so the site is something that has to do that is not part of Git. So because it's not, it was just something I was using to test Firebase. I don't think I need any of it, but let's move site up to beavertangentcode.com Firebase site, and I'll mess with it over there. Okay. One more time. Oh, this can go at the bottom. That's important stuff. Okay. That looks promising. Ooh. You know, if I just did clean up py project, comma. All right, I'm going to push this. Seems to have worked. Why it insists on deleting this? I should put it back. I see. So I moved that file, and now it's mad that the SQL is different. So all right, easy enough. All right, so now we should be able to install that. You should be able to say, I have to publish it to PyPy now. Python package index. PyPy. I mean, I don't think it did it already because I don't think I'm logged in as Rogo. So we need to add a publish a how to share a package on PyPy. Step 7, yes, that's what I want. Fine. What is I'm pretty sure I have an account here. But I don't have any clue whatsoever where it would be. A moment. Ah. I do have one, but it's so old. And it's under my old address. Let's I'll make a new window, see if it even works. Make a new private window. Oh. Control Shift P, I think. Yeah. So same place. See if it still lets me log. All right, so we'll register. everyone just saw my password. Maybe I'll take that off the page. Ooh. Make a new. Give me a second. That's dumb. He's generating the same password. So, since I was foolish enough to hide that on the screen, set it up over here. Different browser. There we go. I got a new password. I am human. Ah. Which ones contain an iceberg? Okay. Iceberg. Seeing. Oh. Can't share it on the screen because it still shows the password. Iceberg. Okay. Our password. I'm human. Please click on an object most similar to the sketches. Okay, that was enough of that. More passwords on the screen. Verify my email address. Okay, I can do that. Second. There it is. About to show up. Should be verified now. I have to actually log in. I did it in the other browser. Okay, now it wants me to set up two-factor authentication. I will do that later when I am not on here. Okay, so your projects. Oh, must be enabled. Okay, so let's set up recovery codes. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to do all this. Save my recovery code somewhere and continue. In order to verify that you have safely stored your recovery codes, submit one of them here, okay? Fine. All right, now add two-factor authentication with a device. I can also not show this QR code here. I need to say go mobile. This is so boring, I know, sorry. But add, and then you hold your phone up to the QR code, hold it up to the screen. All right, now I have PyPy authentication. Verify it, or not to actually verify it, okay. Okay, I have a PyPy account. Ooh. Ancient version of that logo, but okay. All right, so now publishing. I don't need that. I just want to go projects. Python packaging user guide. Okay, so I have to create a project. I have a package, so I ought to be able to. Okay, come on. Packaging flow. All right, the steps to achieve this are have a source tree containing the package. Yes, yes, yes. Prepare a configuration file. Done this. I've done this. Create a build artifact. These normally be sdist and one is wheels. Yes, okay. Update the, okay. Okay. I got this. I got these. Bill did it for me. Okay. Twine. What is twine? I have a twine. I just closed my password. Okay. Okay. They're not on screen anymore. Wants me to use one of them again. Okay. God. Regenerate. Okay. This is so stupid. Current password. Because the alt tab shows it on the screen, so some attacker in the future could see the screen, and then it's so stupid. Okay. Without using alt tab, copy and paste one into the recovery code. Okay. Done. Okay, so all that is good. Take this off the screen. All the sensitive stuff off the screen. It doesn't even show up in all right. All good. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so that's where I'm doing this. All right, so the question was, do I have twine? That's why I was alt-tabbing. Twine, did it? No, so I don't have twine, so I have to install this twine thing. Probably pip install twine, right? Except over here on the one that has rights to install it into. Those things are so complicated. Okay. So then we tell it to publish, and then hopefully it'll say, well, you got to log in and put in a password and all that. Or, oh, what will it do? Fine, upload. Also, I need both the source and the wheel. Okay. First of all, this should appear now. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So twine upload dist and dist. So twine upload. I'll take this off screen just in case it does weird. Enter your. Have to go find the password manager. Python. Okay. Copy the password. Paste it over here. Forbidden. Migrate to API tokens or trusted publishers instead. Okay. I need to get an API token. This. To use an API token, set your username to token, set your password to the token value, including the PyPy prefix. In your account settings, do this off screen again because there's probably some nonsense thing that. Token name. Okay. I only have one option, which is to. This is the only option. Says proceed with caution. Writes to everything. Create a token. Token will only appear once. Copy it now. Do not press Control Tab. Right. Right, and now I have to edit some local file called pypy.something. So just remove token. Create a token. It says this token will only appear once, but then it doesn't. Then it showed it later. Or I guess it showed it twice on the screen, right? So I scrolled up and then okay, so then home pypy PIRC file like without pressing Control Tab. Max. Okay. Tripling to not be able to. Okay. And that password equals thing. Okay. Okay, and we need to put this in our home pipe here. Home.pipe. Okay. So take this off the screen. Take this off the screen. Off the screen. All right. Painful. This is painful. All right. So now in this file, okay, so we got to find some file called. You know, it's storing the password. It probably is even going to show that in the. Probably going to show my actual password in the file right now. It's probably stored unencrypted, right? I don't know. I don't actually have the file. Password is, oh, because it didn't like it. It said use a token instead. So it didn't allow me to. Okay, so all right, so if I hide that from the screen, I hide this from the screen. Then I should be able to now try this again. Action. So upload, there we go. It should. Maybe if I just type it in to the login here. That did not seem to work. It didn't save the file in the directory that I thought it would save it in. All right, you gotta do all this off there. So I'm just gonna input my username as __ token _ into your password, and then long string and it's wrapping, and I make sure I don't. Okay. Okay, so that worked. So I just pasted in my. What if I do it again? Try and upload. It asked me if my username and password. So wherever I thought that file was is not the right place. It did allow me to just type it in, but I didn't. Okay, so I will look at that later. Okay, so anyway, now pypi.org. Oops, I didn't spell it right. pypi.org project Rogo. Go for test-driven teaching. It does have a description. It's right there. Clearly, I'm missing some stuff. License. Is that how that normally goes? What's another thing? We'll look at the Twine one. Oh, I see. So they probably put it in a configuration differently. All right, so I'll have to tweak that a little bit. But this is good. So anyway, at least we have a release history less than a minute ago. Download files. All right, so now let's go to a completely new machine. Oh, hang on. of just pi3. I don't have a modern version of Python on this machine. How about machine that has Python on it? Go to a different direction. Or we could just use a virtual environment. But come on. It's not letting me drag the window. Right. So let's go to cd temp, and we will say pip install Rogo. Loading egg. That's the right executable. It collected it, but it can't because I'm not a logo. So local. What's the help? No, pip help install. Or I could just create a new virtual environment. So we'll go to temp again. So pip, or no, sorry, Python, what version of Python? Okay, Python 3.11, exit. Python -m venv, and then we'll just make a venv, a virtual environment in this temporary directory. Or not. Okay, and then we say source.venv bin activate. And then we say Python import Rogo. That should fail. Yep. I can. You have to hit Z on Windows. I think you used to be able to hit Control C and it would just close it for you. All right. So so pip install Rogo. Import Rogo. Rogo from Rogo import driver. Ooh. Right. Oh. So it installed it, but it didn't handle the updates. It didn't handle the requirements. So requirements. Not working. Yeah, I'll put that in my. Suddenly has way too many windows open. Don't need this. 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 Need all this useful information about that. Where's my to-do list? Over here. Oh. I don't even need this window. So let's put all this stuff I don't need. All right, I just have way too many windows up. Okay, need that. Here we go. All right, so somewhere over here, my inbox here. Rebuild the egg to have dependencies. Egg, not the egg, the wheel. The py install thing. dependency package, I guess. Right, so this is actually done, but instead of that, we used a pyproject.com. That's the new way to do things, and we did publish it to PyPy, and now we can install that as a global script. But it didn't have the dependencies. So I could even mark that as not being done, but it's good enough for now. Okay. So I would imagine that also gave me a Rogo script. Exit Rogo. So pip install requests. That might not be listed as a. Oh, you know what it is? It's that it's I was supposed to put that in here because it has it in the requirements.txt, but it doesn't have it in the it needs to be in this file. So well, it doesn't matter though, because that needs to be done for work, but I can just manually do it. So pip pip install. I'm trying to figure out how to get that file because it is installed in this virtual environment, but I can just load it from my local hard drive. Pip install -r from d ver rogo requirements. Actually, we can cat that. Yeah. Pip install -r. And now Rogo should work. That's a lot of requirements. Rogo. Oh, it made an exe file. That's interesting. Okay. So now if we say Rogo login, I'm logged in. I got a token. It's not saving the token, but that should work. Okay, so now Rogo init. And that's the thing I want to write. So that's what we need to implement. But I would like to install this package. Oh, I can just install it from here. And that way I can test it out locally or whatever. And then we can just open the yeah, because it's completely empty. Entry point. Rogo driver app interest. Okay. I bet if I just copy this and I put it into here, then we will say this and probably put this in front of it. Let's see if that works. The tilde means compatible with this version. Okay. So what I'm thinking is rebuild it. So cd vir rogo python-m build. But I'm in that virtual environment. So make a new git bash that's not in that virtual environment. cd vir rogo. And then whatever I was just trying to do. I got distracted by python-m build. I'll come back in here. python-m build, and then it should build the whole thing. A little cumbersome, isn't it? Oh, project dependencies must be an array. Is that not an array? project common dependencies. What you do is you say dependencies equals this, and then put these in the strings. My guess was wrong. I should have just looked in the first place. Just because it is, normally put the bracket on there. In this little case, this is a more of a data thing. So python-m build. I think I'm probably going to separate. I was going to say separate out the server, because that introduces dependencies that might not want. Did this actually install like port and workzorg and all that? It did. But how did it know? It must have detected that, but it didn't detect. Oh no, because I explicitly said install the requirements. That's why I got it, right? And that's when I saw all these like requirements of the requirements. I think I can get rid of requirements.txt. Because now it's in my project. I bet you can say license is equal to, can you do this? File, license. You cannot say that. Okay. All right, so now can I hit install? I want to be able to tell at least the pip help install. I think I can tell it to install based on that path, right? Without pushing to first .venv scripts deactivate. ls deactivate. There's an activate but no deactivate. So I guess we just have to cd temp why don't we make a right? Pip remove pip uninstall Rogo. Yes. And JWT, and then there was one other requirement which I can't think of at the moment. Here, requests. Okay, so everything's uninstalled. Now if I say pip install, PCS project URL, local project path. Editable mode. Oh. Pip install -e. Well, that's interesting. Pip install -e Rogo. Maybe I didn't need to bundle it at all. Okay, so it installed, so it did all that. Now if I say Rogo, if I say pip uninstall Rogo, I shouldn't be able to say Rogo anymore. Yeah, because it removes that script. Interesting. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know you could do this editable thing. Now if I say Rogo init says for now, please copy. Now I wonder if, since it's editable, maybe I can actually go in over here to driver and make it do something like change the init to say print hello the end. Oh yeah, okay, that's very cool. Okay, so the goal now is to, so I did get the requirements working, so I can actually knock that off my list. So So that's just part of this. That's really done for real now, as far as I'm concerned. Although probably still in nice metadata in the on PyPy. So it works now, but it doesn't say who I am and where to go. But I can worry about that later. All right, so now Rogo init to select challenge and fetch test. So show menu and select a challenge. How can I do this? Oh, that's cool. It's supposed to right down the center. Here, half the screen. Show a menu and select a challenge. Fetch test from the server. Really is fetch first test from the server. Oops. First test from server. Then we're going to create the local Rogo file. Other way around, like you have to do it first because the server is going to give you a unique ID for your playthrough. Do we call it a playthrough or an attempt? I don't know yet. So I want to do. You need. I need to expand the schema a little bit. Each challenge should have a server ID associated with it. I need to keep like sessions. What would a session be? A session would be first of all, there's two versions of this database. One's on the local machine, one's on the client, and the local machine is going to be a subset of the data that's on the server. I said the word client instead of server. You have a client machine which is local and a server machine which is my server. My server contains, or the local machine should contain a list of servers for other people who want to do this, but that's low priority because, but in theory you would have that. I guess the fact that there's a title here is I feel like there's a one to many relationship or a many to many relationship. No, a one to many relationship between sessions and or like a session would be like a users, basically. So user, your credentials, basically. So you get this token. I'm going to draw like a schema here. Okay. Diagram for this whole thing. Copy this. Make a new thing that's. Now, why on earth would that not? Oh, because that's not a node. No, it is a node. Copy. Okay. DB diagram. Let's move this out of the way. Somewhere way down here, we'll make a diagram. Got all kinds of stuff. All right. Add node. So we're going to have the current data model, which is challenges and tests. And I'm going to copy this off to the side. So we're going to, we have, going down this list, we have challenges, which includes ID, name, title, and URL. And then we have tests, which are part of the challenge. Contains, again, an ID, a name, a head, a chid, which is the challenge ID, a body, I lines, and an O lines. Input lines and output lines. These all belong to the tests, and these all belong to the challenges. And then here's my nice little database diagram. And then I guess chid points to challenge.id. And now I'm saying, well, I need a list of servers, a list of sessions, really. Sessions. A list of attempts. Do you attempt a challenge or you play through a challenge? I think attempt is the word I want to use. Session, the creds, maybe tokens is the word. Tokens, these are the JSON web tokens. And this should have a server ID, server ID, which points at the server. And then it would have a JWT, right? And it would have a JWT, and that in itself includes the information you need to connect to the server. So in other words, this. I think this only has to be tracked locally. I think once you create a token, no, you would need it. You would need it on the server too, because just like in PyPy, there you would create a token, and then you have to be able to say that token is no longer valid. So if like someone steals your laptop and they want they want to go and like work on your LearnTrist implementation, you want to prevent them from doing that, you can disable that thing. I mean, it's a silly scenario, but like just in general. I'm kind of visualizing this. Maybe it's not that terribly important that be able to revoke the token. Um, or like this, you accidentally expose it to the screen, and you want to be able to delete that token, create another one. I think that would be a fair assessment. All right, so then an attempt has a challenge ID, a chid, and it has like so on the server we have this notion of users, right? We don't really see them locally. We don't server only. So like server only and local only. Maybe I'll just make these colors. Both server local everywhere. We have server only local. So local only will make that a different color, make it purple. And server only will make it users, I think. It's gonna be blue. Wrong color, blue. Local only. I mean, I guess maybe all the tables are always there. You don't have to have a check. I don't know, like for referential integrity. But so user. Maybe this goes on the user. So the user has a server ID. That doesn't make any sense. Server only is users. So this would have to be everywhere. Copy style, by style. So it would just refer to itself. The server creates a server ID, URL, and has a list of users. And probably this table is only populated with one server, right? And that's my server. And you get that for free. And then if you want to add your own server, then you add that on the server. On my server, this would be the only. And that way you could fetch from my server and edit it or something. Replication in that server. So your users. This would be server really means more like an academy or the teacher site. Server ID, and then a token corresponds to a user. Token still corresponds to a user. So when you log in, you create a username and password, and then it gets replicated on both sides. So I guess this is also username. Some of the fields might not be populated, but basically your username So then you can get a token representing your user, and then there's a copy of it stored on the server just so you can just so you can delete it. Why is there light coming up? Light coming in from the sun over here. Above my head. Okay, token user servers, temps. PID. Heads in the way. Okay, so now I guess you don't really need the token ID for the attempt. This is just you're logged in as a particular user, and there should be exactly one token locally. Exactly one token locally. Only one token locally. Little comment there. And probably the server only has one server on the remote on the server. Probably only one token and only one user locally. These are just credentials for you to log in. But you could have many tokens, like one per machine, for yeah, one per machine on your yeah. So the server could contain would have lots of users, and then each of those users could have many tokens. But locally on your local install, you would only have one token and probably one server. Oh, but I guess if you have multiple servers, you could have multiple tokens. Okay, so then now you have a challenge ID, and from that, the challenge has to have a server ID. So SID. And then the URL now becomes a relative URL on the server. So SID points to a server. He's over here. Now we say a server has challenges. And challenges have tests. And then there can be attempts. So the challenge ID, right? So attempt has a challenge ID. And this is what's going to be, so the challenge ID is, no, the attempt is going to have an ID itself. So hash or whatever. I'll have a hash code for this attempt. And this is what shows up in your, shows up in the Rogo file. Rogo.rogo. So the hash is stored in .rogo. And I think you can give it a name. And I'm picturing the name as being like, you know, like a language. So you pick a language, it'll just be a string, and then the name will be a string. And so probably the name would be like, if the challenge is learn Tris and you're doing it in J, then by default the name would be like learn Tris in J. But then you could say, you know, learn Tris in J speedrunner, some other. You can have multiple attempts to do this. So an attempt is a playthrough. This has really been going on for 5 hours. Wow, almost 6 hours. That's crazy. Oh, I bet because I think I hit this. No way. I think I hit the stream button earlier. I don't think it's a 5 hour stream. If it is, either way, I'm gonna wrap it up because I gotta. I'll probably come back and like implement this. Tests, challenges, attempts. All right, so I'm going to walk through the workflow and see if this data model covers everything. So we log in, and that's going to create a token. We're going to get a token from the server associated with a user ID somewhere. And so, yeah, so there we go. A challenge ID, we need to have a user ID. And that would, of course, refer to the user table. So an attempt is actually goes in the middle here. Right. So it connects user to a challenge. Or, it's a many-to-many relationship. So yeah, because a user can do the same challenge many times, and a challenge can be done by many different users. Okay. So we do that. We say init. We're going to select a list of challenges from the server. So you're logged into a particular server. I guess in theory you can be logged into multiple servers, right? So when you, so maybe well, we know which server we're talking to. So you wouldn't get like all your servers if you have multiple servers. You'd have to set that environment variable, and that controls everything. So that kicks off the process. So we select a challenge. We only care about the current server. In Rogo init, fetch first test from server. Set with Rogo, or we can override it. We say Rogo server equals xxx Rogo init. So you can select another server if you want to. That feature exists. So we'll list the things and then select challenge. Once the challenge is selected, we have to fetch we fetch the first test for that challenge. Right? So we fill in this information. If we're only fetching one test at a time, how do we give it a progress? Maybe, possibly, size, like length, n tests, num tests. So that way you can, without even knowing all the tests, you can fetch tests. Of course, that would have to be updated by, as this changed. So maybe that's calculated field or something like that. Register attempt with the server. All right, so now All right, so yes. So register attempt with the server. So we're going to tell it to attempt. We're going to tell the server that we're attempting this challenge, and we're going to give it, ask what language you're using, give it a name, and then also possibly a Git repo. Git URL. And that way we could link it. That way you can browse each other's code. Like if you want to make this public, you can browse the code. You want everyone to not make it public? I don't know. Is private. Ask whether it's public. So that way you can, I'm thinking you put the Git URL on there so that the mentor, if there are mentors, they can look in and help you with your code. But then some people don't like to show what they're working on. They prefer to keep it private, and so that's the option there. All right, so again, we register the attempt. Now we get back a hash ID. So create the local Rogo file, and that would includes the attempt ID hash from server from the starting. We have to create some new endpoint here that does this. And then how to run the program. And I think that's it. That's all the thing needs. Like I believe that's all that's in there right now, and I think that's all it needs. .rogo file. Yeah, contains targets, possibly multiple targets. But yeah, that's how to run the program. How to run the target. So the thought is that like if you're working at multiple layers, like a language and like a virtual machine and a language and so on, which is a situation I expect to be in, then there may be more than one target that you need to run, or different parts of the program might have different shells on them. Oh, I see it. I'm looking now. It looks like I hit a streaming button for 6 hours, and then the actual stream is 2 hours and 30 minutes. There's two that right here. Can't see it. This said it was 6 hours, so I was working for 3 hours trying. When I intended to start the stream, and I was debugging the whole issue of like why it wouldn't let me log in, even though it worked locally. Okay, so how to run the targets. Create the local Rogo file. All right, so I believe that is sufficient. So my database covers all of this. Rogo setup, that's just for changing the command line arguments and using whether or not use a shell. Rogo tests. Oh, okay, so now that does not get covered. Great. So Rogo tests, we run the test. And we have all lines, and then so also in an attempt, we have a current state. So builds or what would you call it? So you have a state, a flag basically is you're in one of two states basically. Either you're working on you're trying to pass a new test. You expect one test to fail, the last test, or you expect all the tests to pass, and you're just changing things. So you're going to like optimize, or you're going to clean up the code, or something like that. So that's I don't know what the right word, but build would be adding a new feature, and then change would be like modifying, optimizing, refactoring, anything like that. Code cleanup, moving files around, anything like that. Okay. So and then based on that state, when you're in Rogo test, you expect one test to fail, or hopefully eventually pass, but you're expecting, you're not adding code until you have a broken test, basically. And then we need a progress file. This, whoops, goes over here. And actually, we don't need these colors anymore because I think the schema is exactly the same everywhere. And we're going to add a node, and we're going to say, what? Progress. So this is an attempt ID. It has an attempt ID. That's all we really care about. But it also has a test ID. And the test ID maps to this table. I guess we could make this. Prettier. I guess this would be local. Rogo is the .rogo file is. Oh. So you can't apply a style to it. Looks now they don't look nice because all a different curve size. Or probably this is actually needs to be reversed because the Rogo file refers to it. Oh. Rogo file refers to that hash. Per server. Generally only one. Okay. But we'll put the server in there just in case that we can work with multiple servers if we want to. I think that's it. Let's go back to the list. So anyway, the progress. Oh, so just to flesh this out. Once we have this, then we say, did it pass or did it fail? So passed, fail, and then a timestamp. And we're only going to track changes. So as you progress, you gain passing tests, but if there's a regression, then we'll record that So you have a test ID and AID, and then but since you can have multiple, so like if there needs to be like an order. Well, they're ordered via the timestamp, right? But so these three things make the primary key. This is a grouping, and then there can be multiple things underneath here. So that I mean, obviously there's a row ID, but SQLite adds a row ID implicitly. Except we explicitly added one for challenges. Why do you need a token? Because you also, no, you don't. The token is only used for local authentication. So since there's only one of them, it's just implicitly you have a token, you're logged in. So there's nothing pointing at it other than Rogo itself. Same thing for your username. Really, we just look at your tokens and then map them to the server to make sure that you can talk to the server you want. This is a little bit subtle of a query, but I think it's, as long as you have the attempt ID. So you have this hash in there. From there, we know what you're attempting. We know what the challenge is. We know who you are. We know what all the tests are. And we know about your progress. So your progress is going to be stored locally on your machine. And I guess we could sync with the server. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to sync that in any way. Okay, I think now I think we're good. So maybe we record like the first time you encounter it, the first time it fails, the first time it passes, and then every time it switches state. But if it fails over and over again or passes over and over again, we're not going to track that because that's the expected situation. So the first time you encounter a test, that's what causes you to trigger an update. Next. What if it fails or passes during a like, do I want to track the timestamps on when you switch between? I don't think I need to track that. It's none of my business. It doesn't matter. But I would think that failures, regressions are only sent in build mode. Or do I even care about regressions? Only send regressions in build mode. Like, why am I tracking this? Is this beneficial to the user? I'm going to take this out for a second. Pass fail. I don't know if I need this or not. I'm not going to put this in yet. Whenever you pass the test for the first time, you get it. But you have to pass all your tests. I guess that could conceivably create a situation where well, the test runner itself, I mean, yeah, you could cheat it. You could cheat it by just telling it to only run the latest test, but I think it should only submit if you run all the tests. If you run all the tests and they all pass, then you can progress. And you could cheat that but then you're only cheating yourself, because how are you going to, presumably early thing, the tests depend on, earlier tests work, right? You're working from that assumption. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about people cheating this, because this isn't a game, right? It's a, I mean, it's meant to feel like a game, but like, who cares if you pass all the tests, right? It's a meaningless metric, right? In fact, I was thinking about only giving access to the leaderboard if you could pass, if you take a test on, if you take a course on how to cheat at the leaderboard. I mean, not that there is a leaderboard yet, but that's my thought. And then send the version. Okay, yeah. So, but I do want that. I want the get hash. The get hash. The version hash, right? So in other words, I would encourage you to check in your changes. Oh, I see. And then that would replicate it. So someone ought to be able to check out your code and replicate the changes, because this should be in the repository. And that way, if someone thinks you're cheating, they can go look at your repository and see. I mean, again, it doesn't matter. The cheating, there's no cheating. You're cheating yourself. So who cares? But I just, it's, anything that has a game associated with it, I have no idea how people are going to react and what kind of people are going to be there. Okay, Rogo status should show info and current test. From this database, we can definitely get the current, from here, we know what this is, so we know what this is, so we know what the challenge is. We can print its name, we could say what the progress is. We have the number of tests, we can say that we passed this many tests. Yes, I think we're good there. Live viewers of progress over WebSocket, that's a completely different thing. That's when we send the information about the progress, right. So on the way the progress works is you would have to get this from the server. So the server is going to decide whether or not you passed or not. And so when the server says you progressed, then it adds this here. So if it passes locally, this doesn't get updated. This only gets updated when you submit the thing to the server, which is Rogo next. When you ask for the next test. So you say you're done with this test, and you get the next test, and that's Rogo next. Okay. Rogo status should show info and current test. I think that's it. Server should notify live viewers of progress over WebSocket. Rogo watch should run tests when files change. Always check for up. Rogo watch is local only. That's just part of the workflow, but it has nothing to do with the database. This over here has nothing to do with the database, other than maybe we notify people when things change, but this is like a server side thing inside the web server. The idea being that you'd have something on the page while you're running this code. And then server action should always check for updates. And that's all good. Only other thing I can think of is a meta table that has the oh, what the heck did I just press? Enter? Oh, apparently if you hit the backslash key, it goes full screen. This would contain the schema version. Just in case this ever updates. And that way we can apply migrations and whatnot. I think that's it. Okay, so how much of this am I actually doing so far? So I've got my goal was to get through all of this today, and I may come back in a little while and do some more. But I think I'm going to end the stream here. So this was, we got login and got pip install of Rogo, and we have the database, or we have a schema for the database to do all this other stuff. But we have to actually implement the logic and set that all up. And yeah, I'm ready to switch gears. I feel like I've been doing a lot of like DevOps and packaging and server configuration. Yeah, I think I'm good for now. Other window over here. Git add that. So let's just commit this, and then what changed in the driver? Go to that. That was git checkout, and then git commit -m move requirements or dependencies to iproject.toml. And yeah, so then the next step will actually be to finish the workflow. So Rogo init setup is just to reconfigure the initialized file. Rogo test that workflow. We do need it to actually in Rogo login actually store the token. So that token would be stored in the new tokens table. So what would we say? Implement set up new database, add new tables. To store data for the rest for these scripts, for these commands, and then store token and from login. We need to create the figure out where to put global the global database. SQLite database home dir. Maybe like put this in like your Rogo.SQLite database, and then store token from login, and then this will create the local Rogo .rogo. So we'll have a .rogo.sdb in your home directory, and then a local .rogo file in your project directory, which is just like a little chunk of JSON. That's it. What happens if you have multiple like virtual environments? I think that's fine. If you have multiple virtual environments and then you install Rogo in both of them, what if one of them is out of date and we update the schema? I don't think this matters. I don't think this matters. Like virtual environments are only for Python, and they're only for your development. So when you type Rogo, that's going to be a local. That's going to be installed locally on your machine, regardless of whether you're developing in Python or what. Like you could be developing in Node or J or Rust or anything. So it's not part of your virtual environment. It's only that case for me because I'm using a virtual environment. I'm using various virtual environments to deploy it. And I don't think you need a virtual environment just to run it locally. It doesn't matter if you could use it. You could have Python 12 installed or 10 installed, 20 installed. Python 3.20 or 4.900 or whatever, and then write your code in a different version of Python. It's totally fine. So you won't. So you'll have one database even if you have many projects. So you wouldn't have a local version of Rogo in each one of those, unless you make your own virtual boxes or whatever, and that's totally fine. That's up. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm done. I have a design. This all works. And so then the next step is to add these tables. And I do need to be able to create. Yeah. So the point of that was that you got to, we're gonna have a SQL file that has the schema here, and then we create that database from the schema. And then as migrations are applied, if the schema ever changes, if this needs to ever change, we'll create more SQL files, and then we'll apply them in sequence to upgrade. So there'll be a SQL directory with a bunch of migrations. That way migration is just a name for a SQL file that contains all the commands to change your database schema. I guess usually they're not SQL files, they're system-wide model changing. Yeah, I think I'm good here. And then I do want to have a thing called Rogo Share, which like takes all this out of your local control, so you don't have to sit there and type it all the time. You just type, you run, you do the login and the init, and then you run Rogo Share, and then you're handing control over that directory to the server, and that way you can run your program or run tests or whatever, and you don't have to be looking at that shell window. And yeah, so like for LearnTrist, though, you'll be able to run like an actual graphical video game running your code, but running in your browser or whatever. So I think, yeah, I feel like I'm back in application development mode when I switch over here. I'm going to stop rambling now, and just call it a day here. Not call it a day, but come back in a little while. All right, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Hopefully pretty soon there'll be something for you to play with. I guess, feel free to go download Rogo and see if you can. Well, you can't really do anything with it yet, but you can install it. Yeah. Stay tuned, I guess, and there'll be something ready.